All right, guys, I want you to chime in on this one. Comment below. Who are the best culture guys, glue guys in sports history? But let's start it off with Aggies. One of the guys Logan Lee mentioned was Dominique Kirk for his team out there. Cullen Gillespie is the name that came up. Leon O'Neal is the name that came up. Culture glue guy doesn't have to be the best player on the team, but many times it is. Who are some of the best you've seen in sports history? Tim Duncan was one that we heard quite a bit from. I even brought up Rob Gronkowski. Not the best player on the teams he won Super Bowls with. Obviously, that's Tom Brady, but a guy who really kind of set the tone out there. So we talked about that during the Go Hour with Olin Buchanan. Then we went to extended Go Hour, and we talked about the college football playoffs. Sankey says, we're fine with just 4. I've been telling you guys, but you don't believe it? Watch it. Does he have a point? Do you believe that? You can comment on that below. Andrew Monaco, all Aggie athletics. We talked about everything. Baseball, football, basketball, the stuff that he does here on the show. And then Logan Lee on the show talking about the new transfer, KK Robinson. All that more and more on TexAgs Rewind presented by T-Mobile. They want you to visit T-Mobile.com/across America to learn how you can get more value and coverage through T-Mobile. Here's the show. All right, let's talk about culture guys and some of the best in sports. So I thought of some A&M guys, but and also throughout sports, there's some really great ones. But I was going to let you kind of start it off here. Who are some of the best culture/glue teammate guys that help set the fabric of a team?
First guy that comes to mind is back in 2012, Sean Porter.
Okay.
Sean Porter, without a doubt. You know, he's the guy that when they lost to Florida, he was the guy that gets in the locker room and people are feeling pretty good. Hey, man, we just opened the SEC play and almost beat Florida, and he was not happy and made sure everybody knew it. Look, this is not what we're not going to be satisfied with this. We're better than this. And I think his anger was what's that word? Contagious.
Yeah.
And that team followed his lead of, you know, and there may have been others, but Sean Porter was definitely
somebody
the guy
who pops up in your mind.
Absolutely, without a doubt, especially that year.
Any other ones that come to mind? It doesn't have to be Aggie specific. It can be some of the teams you've loved throughout the years because I know you're a big Cowboys guy. I think the triplets, they were the 3 best players on the team, but they also set the tone for the way that team played.
Well, I think yeah, absolutely. Some of their defensive guys too, and then I think about Roger Staubach. You know, they always thought as long as he's on the field, we have a chance to win. That kind of thing. I think maybe the ultimate guy like that was Tim Duncan.
Oh, yeah.
A guy that cares more about winning than his statistics. You know, the anti-James Harden.
I like this conversation already.
So that's what I look for. You know, it's not like you said. It's not always your best guy, but if it is your best guy, then everybody is always going to follow that. I think Alex Caruso must be an ultimate glue guy
on any team he's been on, right?
Well, the Lakers are NBA championship with him,
and I know LeBron loved him.
And he leaves. Now, I don't know if he's a leader, but he's the glue guy.
Sure.
If he leaves, what happens to him?
They crumble.
So obviously, Alex Caruso is the best player in the NBA, right? Because LeBron James can't win with him.
Can't win without him.
They can't even get in the playoffs without him, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they did. I don't know.
So I do think, and the reason this conversation came up is because of Quentin Jackson's news yesterday of getting invited to the G League. I guess it's like not a combine, but it's like a showcase. And I think of him, he was probably the best player on the team.
Yes.
Right? But he was also the guy who set the tone for that team. I think he was a vocal leader, a leader on the floor, and just like a leader that fans got behind big time.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's another one of those guys that he's your best player, but he's not worried about his stats. He's worried about winning. And I think that's where it all begins.
Worry about winning.
Who really cares about winning more than anything else?
Yep.
And if you find that, you found something really valuable. I think whoever's the quarterback of A&M this year is going to be that way. I think DeMarvin Leal was that way.
Kenyon Green?
I think Kenyon Green was that way. I think anybody that'll change a position because it'll make who I think is the ultimate guy that they had on the last couple of years is Anais Smith.
Okay. Swiss Army knife, can play anywhere, will do anything.
And you know what I remember of him? when Zach Calzada retreated into the end zone and was sacked and ended the game against Mississippi State, and that game was over, you saw a dejected Zach Calzada, obviously, and it was Anaya Smith that went over to him. And basically, I'm sure, I don't know what the conversation was, but man, you got to shake it off because we're going to need you the rest of the year. We're not done yet, kind of thing. And the next week they beat Alabama. But he's also the guy that'll move to any spot they ask him to, and he performs.
Greg Sankey on the College Football Expansion, this was yesterday, he says, I don't think people heard me. We can stay at 4. This conference will thrive at 4. So I have several thoughts on the expansion of college football playoffs, which we've done in months past. And we can get to those, sure. But on this particular quote, OB, is he just saying that? Or do you think he really believes that?
Oh, I think he really believes it. I think that he's playing poker with some guys. And, he knows that.
Either way, he wins.
He knows he's got he's got 4 aces or whatever, and he's going to win. So how do you want to play it,
So because he knows pretty much every college football playoff, pretty much, he's going to have 2 teams in.
He has a great chance to have 2 teams in.
Yep.
Unless one of them is A&M. And
Could they do 3 ever?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Of the 4, yeah.
Yeah, let's think of it this way. Maybe it's even this year. Maybe what if A&M defeats Alabama and
loses it along the way somewhere?
No, it goes into the playoff, goes into the SEC championship game with Georgia and loses, and Georgia's undefeated. But it's a great game.
Okay.
And what if Alabama doesn't lose another game?
And they have 1 loss.
And Alabama's 11-1. And
would they give it to Bama over A&M?
And A&M is 12-1. A&M beat Alabama.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, after what happened a couple years ago, I'm wondering.
Yeah, and Georgia's unbeaten. Or flip it around and say A&M's the team that's unbeaten, and they beat and Georgia's
a 1-loss Georgia.
And you have a 1-loss Alabama. In that scenario, I could see 3 teams getting in.
So in a 12-team playoff, I'm going to go extreme here. So 4-team playoff, you have half the field. In a 12-team playoff, how many teams does the SEC realistically get? Because the percentages, I think, then go down.
Oh, I could think that
4?
In some years 4,
5?
maybe even 5 in some years.
Okay. So not half.
No. But, they're not. I mean, is that Pac-12 champion really going to scare you? Oh, Lincoln Riley's doing all. I see they're saying that they're even. Who was it? It was Mark Sanchez said, the USC's now even with the SEC. And I'm like, Mark, maybe.
They may get invited because of their easier schedule, but like many teams from the Big 12 have learned.
And what's the Big 12 going to be? And if the ACC has another year like they had last year, see, everything would have to fall just right. But yeah, I mean, I could see them get 4 or 5.
So 8-team playoff, let's say they go 8, you could see 4 there, right? You could still see half.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I would think that in a lot of cases, the 4th best team in the SEC is going to beat the 1st place team in a lot of other conferences.
So I've made similarities to the basketball team, but in different ways. But like a team that had a lot of promise, but some holes, and then they start pushing the right buttons. And I feel like that's what is happening with this team.
Go back and say this staff, Jim Schlossnagle and his staff, bringing in the right guys from outside the program to fit the program. That's where I think the similarities begin with baseball and basketball. And I have told Buzz and his staff that teams are puzzles. There are some teams the pieces don't fit, and there are some teams where the pieces do fit. And I'm seeing that in both basketball and in baseball. But when you bring in, I think another key is a grad transfer. It's got to be the right guy or the right guys. And that's what they have done. They have fit in. And I think that helps accelerate a culture. I really do. And then their legacy will be Okay, do you take over for what Troy Clonch has done behind the plate and what Jacob Polish does for that staff and Dylan Rock? And I don't mean to leave people out, but that will be part of the legacy, the present, but also the future. But I'm with you. I think there are a ton of similarities between the two teams.
What I find fascinating, too, is the conversations have changed, right? Each part of the season, you go, well, can this team be good enough to make the SEC tournament? You know, they got a lot of players, but things have to go right. Then it's like, can they make the NCAA tournament? Then like, can they potentially host a regional? Now the conversation is, if they get good enough pitching, they may make it to the College World Series, because it really boils down to the pitching staff.
It absolutely does. And we have found out throughout that Nathan Detmer is a Friday night starter. Mm-hmm. And not that it was a question, it was when you put someone in that role, and he has thrived. And I love what Coach Schloss said about him. He said, we had all the confidence in the world in him. He needed that confidence. And I think that translates with each good outing. And then in the bullpen, you got to figure out who goes in what role. And I think we have figured that out again. And every time that there is an opportunity, and that's what Schloss calls them, opportunities for pitchers, they have stepped up. Even in losses, they have stepped up out of that bullpen. I know Saturday it was Wyatt Tucker and then Chris Cortez, but if you think about Georgia, it was Brad Rudis out of that bullpen giving you Moo Menifee and Vanderbilt to get that win. When you get that during the course of a series before the final game of the series, it doesn't blow up your bullpen. You have an opportunity to not only win that game that you may have lost, but you can win game 3. And that's why you can win the series, because your bullpen isn't in tatters, that someone has stepped up and run with that opportunity. That's been really fun to watch and see. Sometimes it's a different person each series, and that has been a blast to watch.
So it's been about 17 years since I've been this close to a baseball program. Okay, in college. I've been close to the Astros, but different. And to see this staff, it's like watching a college football staff with DJ Durkin, right, and Steve Adazio, and the names that I feel like the staff that Schloss has put together, I was told was going to be legendary, and it's playing out exactly that way.
The way the pitchers get along with Nate Yeskie, what these hitters have done with Michael Early has been terrific. To bring in Nolan Cain, to bring in Chuck Box, when you do that, it's again, it just fits. And it's the excitement of, and remember what Schloss said early in this season, I am pitching a freshman now because I want him to be not just part of the staff maybe a Sunday, let's say a Ryan Prager or a Christian Curtis on a Tuesday, but then can they be part of my staff down the line? So not everything is just this day to day. There's that forward thinking as well. But the pitchers along with Nate Yeskie, and we said the hitters of Michael Early, and if you see the way this team is hitting, and sometimes it's not just, David, I honestly think sometimes it's not just the hit that becomes important, it's the at-bat. And maybe a batter doesn't get a hit, but shows his teammates 8, 9, 10 pitches and helps them. Or a pitch that you swung at early in an at-bat, later in that game, you're laying off. Just that, the time in the cage, the time in BP, but the time where you can just visualize, just stand there and take a pitch, and this is a slider, and should I swing at it or should I not? That development over the course, I think, has really a big reason why this offense has really clicked.
All right, so let me ask you this: what's the feeling around the addition of KK Robinson? What he's going to mean to this team moving forward?
I mean, I think it's a great addition. If you go off of, you obviously can't go off of a lot of his collegiate career. You know, he's been 2 years at Arkansas, but both of them he's had injuries and hasn't been able to get in the rotation and get in a rhythm. Foot surgery his first year, his freshman year, and then an injury before the season even started going into his second year. And so he hasn't had a lot of success at the collegiate level, but only because he hasn't had the capabilities to get on the court, not because of coach's decision, but because of injuries. And so you have to look at a number of things. One, his high school career, and what he did to get to this level. And then two, when he was playing, even though he wasn't at 100% in the majority, I'd say 90% of the games that he played in college, what did he do even when he wasn't completely healthy? And you start there. And you look at what he did at Arkansas, and after watching, probably half of his highlights and half of his games, he's a good point guard. He can hit the open teammate. He's going to push the ball in transition. He doesn't force the action a ton, and I think he's a great piece to the puzzle that Buzz is building right now. We've talked about it for a number of years. When is A&M going to have a guard come in here and lead this team? And I think KK Robinson could be that guy. Obviously, it's yet to be determined because he hasn't played a ton at the collegiate level and he has been injured. So staying healthy is a concern. But, you know, with a team that A&M has, and you've seen how Buzz has built his teams and what they did last season without a true point guard, really playing the entire year and what they were able to do. Now you add a guy that can play that spot and add some talent around him, both through the transfer portal, through experience from last season that the guys on the roster have gained, and then the incoming high school guys. Buzz looks like he has a good team set to go.
Logan, it looks like Buzz likes getting guys from proven programs, Michigan State, Duke, Arkansas, programs that have high-profile coaches and that can win at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you always want to have, if you're going to pull somebody out of the portal and you can say, hey, this guy's been coached by Coach K, Tom Izzo. Arkansas has had success. I don't think
Musselman's not on the same category, though.
I no disrespect to him, but I really didn't even want to mention his name in the same sentence with Kay and Izzo, but you know,
but they're a good program.
They're an SEC program, so you know the landscape of the conference, and that's immeasurable in itself. So yeah, he's done a good job. Buzz has done a good job of pulling guys that are accustomed to being coached pretty hard, because if you look at the way Coach K coaches and Tom Izzo coaches, and even Musselman, the way he coaches, they're not lay-down coaches that just let the program just roll the ball out and go play basketball. They are guys that get after it, that expect the details to be paid attention to, that expect fundamentals, and that's exactly what Buzz and company want here at Texas A&M.
So here's a fact for the YouTube audience that's watching this on TexAgs. I, before every show, go get 2 waters for myself, and I bring a water for Olin every morning. I'm giving you behind-the-scenes stuff because that's what I do. Here's another behind-the-scenes thing. Sometimes, more often than not, Dalton will come in between segments, and he'll just sit right here and say, hey, how you doing? And we'll just chat. Those are things that you don't care about, but you do care about because you're watching this show extended, right? Do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me stuff you believe in. And if you know the Pledge of Allegiance, you can do that at home silently or in front of people, whatever works for you. It is TexAgs Rewind, brought to you by T-Mobile.